X'úxʼ de Johan was tu yake yank haiti wujin. Wujin xati aya qanachroe a jidach aya kehagochlitsin. De Johan. A dusa de tuasagu Lingít aya tushakuchu. Yeo tu yake gwall de Johan helwasaha oti. Just ziago echosatin. A deawe wukuch tag. Wushgate hasyaw de gu. Kuni nachsa gwalldachuna at budutsa kuchu at. Wan gonins kach yesatkaya at deya na kuchu. At joe acha kachlechait lwasa at gukwane. Chatsu gau it chat na teach. Joe kagaya at kuchach yetgitin. Kallach tuash guch kekwati hakusti yikoa. At joe tuasagu gaden at kuchu. Kayuhansu. Kashachik ayawan kanins yedi. Ka acho atlel gedeen hasawas kuwasat gukwane. Ya yidat ya huji ya yi khashatu. Oh ya tu akkeitli. Aqa we wuji nie jagachtune wish kalnik dat. Iti asande khak. Ye awe ha huji yejene. Oh let's say. Tlashidat tadakhnad. Ja, khana chayeku genki wish kalnik dat jagachtune. Kohanti. Well, Kohanki to you do a sago at Sahan, you do a sago show it. Aka away way Lingít ʼatángi tut jishaguni ay adat yuchagachtulla at. A day wuj katu jail ay ʼatángi. Ya wasa atbune wasa atgukwane. Ye awa achtu wasagu kadena ya tushagugu. But you adat yuchagachtulla at. Gulchi shahiti dishi chitwu kaye dishitsin. Ya ach itik aya yirinak kachanach ay wuke. Gwall Cajun tag shu hi tlll gadenaich was the ko dusa kaaníkk kwalla tu ya dayach ya advanced Lingít yudu asago at way itka hatu asago itka awa wutunaki ya itka chatl in ye awa hatu wati ju wan qanin so yesh kalnigi ye ya waka ya eitlini chachu ya kwalwe leqoina qa kinde aya awa ach yel awe kinde awa ach we eitlini qa atayich wugud hin takate aya atwugud yel ya yidit qa ya qone yejagachtune ya hayuk ʼatángi dat wishkalnik gwalli tuasagu yuqayil alki qaqwati. Okay. Sheesh. Any thoughts or questions before we get started?
I had a practical language question. If Kashahit Ye Kaaníkk, you should sign up. Dakun. The time to sign up is Thursday. In English, I might say bye. And I have no idea of how to phrase that. It's for a poster. So it just somehow needs to indicate that this dakun sikdis is the day you have to have something done.
Oh. Well, I guess you'd probably say, so like the 4th of February, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Let's say, Sik Isai Kashahit Yatakach. Yeah, you did. Hey, there's a word for, let me see. I wonder if this one would work. So thinking of like how things open and close. So let's go to the verb dictionary. Our trusty old favorite Favorite orangish yellow gold book here. And if we go up to close, well, we'll also do a phrase about picking your nose, just because that's when it's kind of fun. It's not what you think it'd be. And so, but anyways, we're going to look for close. Because sometimes we got to figure out like how would Lingít sort of talk about that type of thing.
Yeah.
So you've got like for pages of a book to shut a book, close a window by, and so this one the verb root is to throw something. So you're gonna throw it shut. That's how you sort of, and then ʼat is a plural version. Yeesh is to move something that doesn't take a whole lot of strength to move, and especially it seems to go up and down quite a bit. X'úxʼ is a hinged object, which includes a heavy lid that you just lift up. That's why they say hete shukachtutan yayakuske.
And the hunting season.
Yes. Then you can close the door quietly. You can make an obstruction, close something. Oh, this is to like, this is the verb root for dam. So dam up a river, you know. Close tightly, close together, close up completely, close one's mouth, refuse to eat, become whole, like a wound, to be plugged up, and then to be closed, plugged up, close one's eyes, and peek out. Did we see the one for the season? Was that one on here?
Yes, it's hinged door.
Oh, yeah.
Shuyatan.
Yeah, so here we go.
Ah.
So, shudutach, and there's another way. Where is that one at? There's another way to say this too. Hold on. Maybe I'll find it under season. There it is. So this is for something to come to an end. So you'd have shujachin. So you do have some options. You could use sort of a, you could say, hete shakwatan ya yidet, hete shakwatan ko'a. So the door is open and it's open now, but it's going to close. Tsik disi daukunyagi yakwachi. Or you could also say, tsik disi daukunyagi yakwachi huchi yagi aya isai katkashahiti. It's the last day to put your name down on it.
Ah.
Renee?
Ah,
I just found another one where Bessie says beaver hunting season ends. CKD Cluny BC Kachyan Shutanch. And then she said at Gadahitisi.
yeah, so that's using the hinged one, it sounds like. Yeah, so
Yeah, yes, Shutanch. Yeah.
yeah, like it's, and so it's like it closes up like a hinged sort of thing, right? It's like the door shuts on it, which is really neat, right? It's really neat that this worked like that. And when you've got shujachin, and sometimes when you look these things up, you say, okay, well, I could see that's yan shujachin. Yan would be to completion, right? And then you see sh is the end. This is a SH, it's a D plus SH classifier. But then that leaves us with chin, which we might go, and if we go down here, we'll see for something to fall, capsize, spill, end. And so it's a really interesting verb root, because this is the one as well. This was something we were working on at the nest, was spilling. And for spilling, there's two ways to talk about it. So if we go down to spill, it shows us both ways, and we can put the pieces together, right? So you have yach akawachich, and then you have yach kauchachin. The big difference is it spilled, someone spilled it. So you have to use the right verb. So this is one where like there's two different verbs, right? So you could say yach kauchachin yehin, the water spill. But you could also say hin yachakawachich, they spilled the water. So that's why you don't have the at the start of here, because there's no subject. There's only an object.
Yes.
And so if in those cases, you could pick the one you want to use, because sometimes you don't want to blame kids. And so you could say, we don't want it to spill. So because we see here, this is a negative perfective. The negative perfective, if you add the I or the U, that's how you get the subordinate form. I don't want it to spill. And then, this one, I don't want you to spill it. So, there's times, especially when you're dealing with kids, where you want to sort of put the subject in there, and you might say, don't want you to do this. But then there's other times you're supposed to be helping with their confidence and not blaming them for stuff, I guess. And then you would say it like, I don't want it to spill.
Right.
Or you could say, and if kids grew up like they do today, if they grew up speaking Tlingit, they'd probably use this one without a subject quite a bit. Oh, it spilled. I don't know what happened. They're the only one in the room with this big glass of water.
I have a question. Shaklek is that because I know Hune, one of the things that she was working on before and we were talking about before was trying to create, I know you did it before, a template that can be used for flyers to announce like classes or events and things where we're using Tlingit and the English might be in the parens rather than the other way. And it's something that we've been trying to promote. Like I took that example to Go Belt Heritage, thinking that they should promote their culture classes using language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great.
And yeah.
Oh,
I jumped in.
okay.
Christine, yes, another one. Satin, you can see, save the dates, third annual youth summit. And I remembered this, Hune,
Oh, yeah.
and Kwatkin Sa. So then that's what I tried to do.
Okay.
And right here's the sentence that you've helped me work on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Ye nasne would probably work better than ye kunanuk. Ye kunanuk sounds like be that way. Behave like that.
Okay.
Ye nasne would be do it. Do the thing.
Yay. Nay.
Nasne.
Nasne.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
With an S. Ye
Oh.
nasne.
Nasne. All right. Gunas Chish.
Okay.
And Gunas Chish, Christine, your encouragement has been great.
Then there might be other ways to do that as well, right? So if ye nasne, so let's see. Here's some ideas. So let me change this and the font size. So if you have ye nasne,
Yeah, nasne.
let's do it. Whatever the thing is, right? Do the thing. There's the verb that we sold to Nike for 100 million sneakers, right? Ye nasne. But this is, and then there's all kinds of stuff too. Like I could say itika ye nasne. That would mean clean your room. Nadak ye nasne, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff I think that's already expected, right?
Oh.
Okay.
So it really means to work on it, right? So you can have
Right.
something and you're saying work on it. And then there's this sort of cultural expectation that you know what your room's supposed to be like. You know what the table's supposed to be like. We can have expectations. And then you can also say yansene, which would be finish it or get it ready, right? So there are, so you could say ye ausane would be they did it. And you could say, in this case, yan uane, right? And then there's also wune for something to happen. So some of these have, oops, I should say yan ausane. So that's what these should kind of look like in the, and we can also do a future if we wanted to. So we could say yay. What do you think it'd be? Anybody know? They're gonna do it.
Ye gachtune.
Yay aguch. We gotta get the classifier. It's not gonna be se.
Sa.
Right. Oops, so this one actually needs to change. Yende aguch sane. They're gonna get it ready. They're gonna finish it. So then you could have stuff like this, and then if, as far as how a flyer could go, you could say, let's see, I would probably say a kach. Let's see, how would I say this? I might say ka sai a kach kadishhit gawu. The time to put people's names on it. Qone yak I like this one. It's going to begin to happen. And then let's say registration opened tomorrow. So I could say Shaanáx this. And we could take shortcuts with this thing, I think. And we'll just say like that. Or we do naskadoosh if you want to. And then you could say Yende Shukkwatan. What do we say? Tzik Disi Davkun, right? So Yende Shukkwatan means it's going to end. And so it's a neat one to use as well. Like there's a few different ways to do a lot of these things. So you say ye awe, yan shuwatan, yata. That's a nice way to end a story. That's how this one ends. Okay, sheesh. Think good flyers. I like it. It's great. Okay. So let's check on here. So here's our story. I think you folks did these lines. Qunach hastu atchai wuge, hastu naate qunach yakeka chalutini at hastu gta wuti. So lots of foods, their clothes are nice, they have valuable things. Anybody know what this is right here? When we say hishi wuyat, what's the yi part?
From outside.
There is this, there's these homonyms, right? Because there is yi, which means in a building, if you're outside of the building, right? So you can say hit yi. There's also a yi, which is below something. So you could say, wei shashaki yi de, down below from the mountaintop. There's also a yi, like I could say, yitla, y'all's mother, right? But this one is a thematic prefix built right onto the verb. And it has its own special meaning, which is none of those other things. if you took this off of here and you said heshbuyat, that means something different. It means it's physically not long. Not long. But when we put ye on there, it's not physically long. What do you think? What do you think this is talking about?
Temporal, the time.
Time, yes. Heshbuyat, not a long time. But you could say yat, it was a long time, right? Itach, after that, wushhasputashai, when they got married, at, bad thing or things, qone hastukade judagut, which is really interesting. It's a really interesting way to say it. And let's check the tone on judagut. Because a lot of times I do think it would be more common to say has to cut, qone has to katuokut. It started to come upon them. But I think when Kahwan Ish used judagut here, it pushed it into a metaphor, because that means to attack something, right? So for me, it means it happened pretty fast. Like, it wasn't long after something really bad attacked them. Yeah, at some point, his wealth begins to run out. So I see some notes on qanashkidek. It does mean a poor person. I think it was a verb at one point. Really interesting that it's got the qa on there. And then that the na is built in. And then this would be the classifier. And then that would mean geet would probably be the verb root, right? Similar to like wudzageet or something like that, perhaps. And then haswusati. And then what is going on with this yahasnanin? Do we know what that verb would be in the perfective?
Becoming?
Yes. So it's happening, right? So it would be wune, right? Or if you're from Teslan or Angun, wuni. And so I heard a really cool phrase from a speaker. Well, she probably said it this way. Masaya atnanin ein. What could that mean?
How's it going with you?
Yeah, or like, what's happening with you? Right. I'll put that in our notes. Okay. That man with his children, they're becoming extremely pitiful, and then they became poor. Yeah, so people told him, well, this is a little different though, right? So what is the pause? And this is probably high. Let me check it real quick. Yeah. Okay, it's gotta be high. So what's the positive form of this verb? Anybody know?
Lingít.
Lingít. What's the negative form of this verb?
x'úxʼ.
That is correct. All right, so now, how would we translate lingít?
To be blessed or lucky.
They are lucky. X'úxʼ.
They are not lucky.
So now there's one more, there's a different verb that's an antonym. Anybody know it? It's actually right here.
Unlucky.
That's right. So this is one of those, there's not very many, but there are a few of them that do this. Like you can have x'úxʼ, x'úxʼ. That's two different verbs. Positive form, negative form, and then an antonym. X'úx'n, x'úx'ín. That one does it a little bit different. That one has, it just sort of really affects the verb root. It goes from seen to chin, which is wild. Strong, not strong, weak. So yeah, so I would say unfortunate is fine, but you just say unlucky as well, probably. You're unlucky now because your wife offended the water spirit. Okay. Du shut budyak o wagut, du yit kitin, helte twa ushka, we shishik at. Hast du chuche uti. Yeah, I think that's how he said it. It might be wuti. Yeah. That's probably, he probably said it this way, that's right. So yeah, one yak, you could say, I think you could say whoosh one yak has what. They separated. So this has to do with separating couples that are separating. I think I first got this one when I was working with Dasia in Sitka. And I can't remember, we were talking about like breaking. She was giving me a bunch of phrases, a whole bunch of cool phrases. And ish. And that was one of them, was something like whoosh one yak has what. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, it was, yeah, here it is. So, yeah, these were really fun notes. It includes Kate Tukajashi, which I'll never forget. I'll never forget that name because it's like a dog's dingleberries, and I don't know why that trailing raspberry is named that way. It makes me not really want to try eating it, but maybe. And then whoosh one yach haswudat. And that was like they missed each other, right? And I can't remember the context of that. Like, and then we have wooch one yach haswudat, which is also seems the same, right? So I guess it's a context thing because I probably just didn't write one yach correctly right here. But so that's to be separating, right? So in this case,
are these notes somewhere, or they?
I'll put them up because this is where she
Okay.
told me the name for movie theater.
Yeah.
We named the television based on that. Little Things to Sell, The Gray Porpoise. There's really good stuff in here.
Yeah.
Microwave oven, that's where we named that thing. So yeah, I'll put it up on our class page tonight. We were trying to get like dance on the beat, shake your head to the beat, scattering the eagle down. procession song, entrance song, cruise ship. I can't remember where that Kintiyab. I think it's just a gas-powered boat, I think. Keyboard, remote control. I think we got a different name for remote control. I think it's a kach kodutli chechi at, which I'll share those next week with a whole list of things with a bunch of new names. It's pretty cool. Mudslide, tsunami alarm, because it would go off. We're working in Sitka and they test the alarm. And I was like, oh, we're gonna call that thing. A pantry, binoculars, computer, organic food. It's purely planted food. You probably, I think that one hasn't. That's an actual plant. These are the people who went aboard that Russian boat and ate the rice and ate the sugar and drank the vodka. That's their names. She knew their names. Yeah, then I guess we got a couple other things. That's to peel a boiled egg. That means removing the shell around it. Okay. Okay, let's catch up. I do think it's one yag. Oh, maybe it is one yag. I'll look it up. Anybody find it?
I think that definition was what we found. That's just above there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one yag. So with the A. Sheesh. Even though he was poor, he still gave something good to the leader. Yay ausene a it a kashayit. That should be low. With kahanki, sahan. He did this so he could marry the orphan afterwards. She was she was quiet, not talkative. She always listened to her husband. She was smart and hardworking. Yeah, Nikdain is how I've heard that. Like to be harmful. Is that what that one is? Nikdain.
Sickly?
Huh?
Gosh, sickly?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, to do. I think a good translation for that is with ill will. Because what did Kakwani say? Klinget ani ka nikdain dai ka nikdain dai ineq. Don't speak with ill will and don't do things with ill will to the people of the world who are like you. Tishdain, lonely, lonesomely. Kedain, well, Ishan Dain, pitifully. Kudzidain, amazingly. Mundane, Great Dane, okay. Ausaku, Hastu Utki Kedain Ashtinuch. She always knew how to take care of things. Okay. And then you could probably say, well, Ausaku Hastu Utki Kedain Ashtinuch. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Goodness cheesh. Okay. We gotta finish this one. So the whole idea with this is to just really think about how do we go from all those parts together to these things? What are and this is kind of leading up towards getting a hierarchy of things that we'll just start to say, okay, when these two things meet, that's the one that's got to submit. Like I got a dog and should submit to anything, I think. She submits to the cat, to us, to everything. So it just rolls over. And so some things are more likely to contract than others. Some of them say, I can't contract. Never. Because people won't know what I am. Like to, I don't think can contract. Because you can't take that, can't take any parts out of it. Cha, you can. You could take the letter A out of there. It'll be fine. So we walk through some of this stuff, and we'll go through it again. So maybe the orange doesn't show up so well. I'll have to maybe rethink it. But the idea here is that orange shows you things that shift. Red shows you things that go away. So when you have y, ch, ya, you get hua. So there is a rule here, and the consistent rule is that when you have y and ch, that perfective marker always jumps over the subject. It just jumps right over to the other side. And so when you have contraction, it's sometimes more complicated than just sort of saying something gets small, because they start to move sometimes to other sides, and they start to shift a little bit. And then that it's long because you're also absorbing the classifier. So when you end up, you really get cha, yu, ya, which gets you hua. The others, you just get hua. And then you go di, si, zi, sh, gli, sh, j. They all have to be plus I because these are positive perfectives, so they have to be plus I. Any questions about that? So when you go plural, you don't have any contraction really. You just have watua, watude, watuse, watudze, watushe, watude, gle, watushe, watuje. All the parts are there. The only thing is that y goes to w, right? And then if something before it ended with a vowel, which we're not dealing with it, then you would really just drop the u. Adeutuaat. We went there. For the second person singular, this is where the perfective is, it's shifting to a y, right? So here you have y and I, you're going to get y every time. So here you're going to get yide, yise, yidze, yichle, yidle, yishe, yidje. So once you say we got y, and now we change the classifier. The only difference is the 0. So with the 0 form of the classifier, if it's 0 conjugation prefix, you get iya, iyacha. If it's not, then you get.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I will. Come on, Siri. It's just a 0 conjugation prefix. Jeez. So with all the others, you'll get ye. Ye too. You read it. Ye ta. You slept. A day ye good. You went there. Hot. Iya good. That's a 0, right? So this is one of those ones where you've got two options for that one. Ye and iya. But if it's a 0 conjugation, it's going to be iya. The others will be ye. We'll look at examples. So this one, when you've got the second person plural, you've got another rule. Y plus ye gives you ye. For Teslan speakers and for Carcross speakers and for some Klukwan speakers, that's going to be ying. So you're going to get that ng on there. For other folks, you've got to make sure the second y survives. So you don't want to say yakehat yi adi. You want to say yakehat yi adi. You just get that yi. It's got a little bit of a waver in it. You got to keep that there. But then once you have that, it's the classifier, just you go di, si, zi, sh, dli, sh, j. So what this shows us is like we can figure out what this pattern is going to be, and then just start changing the classifier. And this one is Y-E-E-Y. Ade-yi-at. Yak-e-hat-yi. Or ade-yi-at. Hat-yi-at. Same. Third person without an object. So here, the y is going to be w. Right, so it's all the way down. Wudde, wusse, wudze, wushe, wudle, wushe, wudje. You've got w, change the classifier. Just like the second person singular though, you do have two options here. That's only if there's no object. If there's an object, don't worry about this. But if there's no object, then your zero will be uwa, and the others will be woo. So you could say hot uwa gut. They came here. Way they woo good. They went that way. That leaves the third person with an object, and in this case, you, zero gets you ow. Awa, aude, ause, audze, outle, audle, ausche, auche. You would have here, whoops, that shouldn't be there. So you would have here, outside of this one, so if you have a vowel, then the W, then a classifier that has a consonant and a vowel, you'll get the M. Amde, amse, amze, amhle, amgle, amshe, amje. All of those would be M's in Tussin and Carcross. And some speakers from Klukwan. There's only one thing left in the perfective. Fourth person. For the fourth person, all zero classifiers must be minus D. All non-zeros must be plus D. There's no exceptions to that. So you're going to have wudua, wududze, wududle, wuduje. But here, just like tu, you don't have any contraction. W, du, wa, w, du, ze, w, du, gle, w, du, je. That's the perfective. Those are all your perfective possibilities without thinking about putting a thematic prefix on there. The thematic prefix will change things a little bit, and we'll get to that. Any questions about perfective prefixes?
Actually, I do. Why is the zero classifier is minus D, but to me it looks exactly the same. It's the same D sound. And these other ones just add the classifier thingamajig, right?
Well, yeah, so these ones have to be, so if we go look at the classifier, right? So if we think about the classifier, if you have D, you can only have these two options. You can never go dude or dude. And then for these other ones, you can only have the bottom row. You cannot have dusa. It's got dus. And so because this is a positive perfective, then that says, oh, and it also has to be plus I. So that means it has to be ya, zi, gle, j. Those are your only four options. Because it'll push it. It'll say, like if you say, chwasatin, yisatin. Let's go chwasatin, wutusatin, yisatin, yingsatin, ausatin, husausatin, wududzatin. That d pushes it plus d. Every time, every single time.
Goodness, geez.
Ah.
Not sure I really understand it, but I accept it.
Yeah, if it's a d, all zeros minus d, everything else plus d. They just have to be that way. What about the future? So how do you build a future then, right? And so this whole thing, looking at this, is just the idea is to say, what are the things that are there? What are the common patterns in terms of contraction? Then we're going to go through and start building these ourselves, right? And start to take a closer look at the rules, including the stem variation. But for now, we're just thinking about prefixes, right? So here's not thinking about adding a thematic prefix. Without it, these are all of your options for future prefixes. This is all of them. Some of them have two choices. Why would they have two choices? Do you get a pick?
But if it has a subject, that would cause contraction.
Well, these all have, so that once these lines down here are talking about, we're changing the subject. So all of these have subjects.
Is it, if there's a vowel at the end of the word before it?
Yes. So if you're going to say ade, then it's going to be this bottom one. Adekwagut, adekkigut, adekwagut. But if you don't have, if you say adach, adachkagut, adachkakigut, adachkagut. So that's, and we'll get to that, right, when we start looking at how they work. But all of these ones that have two options, that's all it comes down to, is I would say the top one is what it is, but a vowel before it will cause additional contraction, and it'll push it to the one underneath.
Is that a big deal, Renee, or like in practice, if you're speaking, they're pretty close, aren't they? Or
Yeah, like if you said adachkagut, people won't be like, what? Yeah, so it's it's fine, but it is one of those like technically correct seems to be how it goes types of things. I would say after teaching in Tessin for like about a decade, they'll notice it more there. Speakers will notice it more. Like if you ask them, and then same with George. Like if you were asking him this stuff, he would make that switch. But not all speakers everywhere would make a big deal about it. And I don't think people would stop you, right? Right?
Just think a little less of you, perhaps.
Look at him contracting everything. Contractors. Some of them will say, shortcut kuste. Like, okay. They'll say, there ain't no shortcuts in Lingít. Okay, so let's look at these one at a time, right? Because you have, I'll put this whole presentation up. You can have these charts. You can make screenshots, whatever you want to do with them. Pack them around. I tried to make little cards, but then the print was so tiny that you had to have like put it under a microscope or like a microfiche, have a microfiche reader to like look at it. So, but we'll figure it out. So let's look. So again, here's first person, right? Because there's so many things, ga, ga is in every one of them. So that means every first person has ga, ga, cha. It has at least 4 things. Then once you get out of this 0 classifier and start getting into any of the others, now they got 5. They've all got 5 things. Ga, ga, cha, da, ga, ga, cha, sa. You've got so many things. Now there's got to be a whole bunch of contraction. But what's the pattern? The pattern is the A falls out. The A falls out of G, switches it to K. That's very consistent in future forms. The Y usually sticks around, turns into, it's either right here or it jumps over. Q plus Ch often equals Ch. That's also very common, right? Like for example, when you say, let me help you, eat, and the parts that are there should be qa, kha, da, shi. And you end up with eat qadashi. Let me help you. So those are the parts. So that's why you end up with this underlined K. It's because the underlined K comes from qa and kha blending together. When they blend together, they make qa. It's very, if you look at hortatives, you're going to see it all over the place. You could say, at-qaha, let me eat something. Because you guys just make me work so hard. At-qaha, right? But you're going to see that, right? And that's what you're seeing in these futures. So I want us to go beyond like memorizing, and just start thinking about like, what are these common patterns? So here you've got kuka, kukwa, kukada, kukwada, right? And not a big difference between them. What happens is it jumps over to the other side. Any questions?
Maybe should that say, you know, first person? Oh, it does have that tiny little thing upper left. Okay.
Very clear.
See,
Very clearly
that's small.
possible to miss. Watch it change to a P. Look at it change to a P.
Wow. Okay, I see it now. Scales have fallen from my eyes.
So when you get to the second person, it's gachtu every single time. Every time, right? Because tu cannot change. Well, it can go long. That's the only way that it could change, right? So it can't contract. That means what has to change is qa. So here, when you have ga, qa, tu, you can't just take this letter A out of there because you can't really, kakatu, it just doesn't work. It makes it too awkward. So what Lingít does is it says the irialis just disappears. Poof, gone, doesn't matter. We also lose the letter A in qa. And when you take the letter A out of qa, you get an underline X every time. Right? Just like you take the A out of ga, you get K. You take the A out of qa, and you get the underline X. That's why you say gachtu. That's also why you say nachtu. Now the only other rule that you get here is if there's a vowel in the classifier, it's fine. It's tu. But if there's no vowel in the classifier, tu wants to add an extra vowel. It's going to go long. So here we got tu, tus, tush, tush. It's very consistent. That's the way it's going to be. Second person, singular. So here we've got kaqi, kaqita, kaqissa. So in the uncontracted version, what happens is, again, the irialis just disappears. It's not a big deal. It's like, you can go away. We know you're there. Whatever. We get it. And then qa and I combine to qi. Right? So that's what happens. Those two combine. This vowel doesn't go away because it doesn't turn to an underlined X. It combines. Then, if it contracts, we're going to pull the vowel out of that ga, and it's going to just switch to a K all the way down. The other thing is this one also follows the same rule. Well, I guess there's kaqi. Should these be long? I don't think so. Okay, let me check something. Okay, yeah, they should be. So again, if there is no vowel in the classifier, then these need to be long. I had it on the left side. Okay, so this t and I both follow that same rule. No vowel in the classifier, subject's going to go long. Okay, kaqi, kaqita, kaqissa, qaqis, qaqisha, qaqish, qaqisha, qaqish. And we'll see, once we see these on verbs too. like it's all highly abstract, I think, just looking at a prefix. But once we start looking at them, like we'll see it, and then we'll be able to predict them by remembering these underlying rules. So only 4 more to go. The second person plural is gachye every single time. So same thing, Arialis goes away, the letter A goes away, and then we get, that's why we get the ch in there. Gachye, 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 gachye. And for here, the only thing that changes is that classifier. That gachye, it never changes shape. It doesn't go long, it's just always short. Gachye. This one, gachtu and gachye. Gachye is probably the most consistent. Third person, no object. So this one is exactly like the first person, except we don't have that. That's why that changes to a K, right? Because qa and kha is qa. But here you have qa. The only thing that you have to remember, the biggest thing you have to remember with the third person is if you have da, sa, sha, or sha, it must go guchda, guchsa, guchsha, guchsha. So it does have 2 options. And this is something, as you speak Lingít and use future verbs a lot, for me, this was something I would always, I would say, for example, I'd have something like this. And I'd say, kukwasha. But that's not correct. It needs to be guchsha every single time. Okay, so here we see, for the contracted version, you pull the A out, and then that changes to just a K. Once you put the object on there, now you've added another thing, right? So 3 on 3, that's got to be the letter A. So then you get akqwa, akuchta, akuchsa, akqwas, aguchsha, akqwash, aguchsha, akqwash. So now you don't get to pick whether it's going to be gukwa or kukwa, because that vowel is going to push it to contract. And finally, gachtu, gachtus, gachtush, gachtush. Because this one has to be minus D. These ones have to be plus D. But that means 4th person non-zeros never have a vowel in the classifier. Kagachtushhit, it will be written. Is everybody okay? That's a lot. I understand, that's a lot. So what do we gotta do? We gotta put it into practice. Whoops, that's the wrong. So we gotta have a conjugation party. Start smashing these things, starting with the perfective. So the first is the classifier. Is almost always in what we call the minus I mode, where I might just say it's the natural form. What the classifier looks like when it's born is 0, sa, sha, sha. You could change it by adding the I component to say it is that way or it did happen. You could change it by adding the D component to say like they're doing it to themselves or we're kicking out the object. So all of the verb modes, most of them are minus I, right? All of the conditional, hortative, futures, all of those, they're all minus I. The only ones that are plus I are state imperfectives, yak'e, shitzin, yanik, shichan. Positive perfectives, wune, wuke, uwagut. Repetitive state imperfectives, yuch ayatunk. right? You, ya, tongue. It's right there. You, atk. You, atk. They're conversing. Atk. And the potentials for whatever reason, which is weird. So that's how plus I works. So this is one way to look at the whole thing. Every verb has a type. There's an act, event, state, motion, position. Those are your 5 verb types. It won't matter, because then you'll know whether or not you can have an imperfective. Then every verb is going to have a conjugation type. It's going to be 0, na, ga, or qa. And that's going to affect it if we want to do a hortative, if we want to do a future, if we want to do progressive imperfective, like we have to know that stuff. And we'll look at why. We'll look at it, especially in the perfective. We'll start with the perfective. There's objects, there's subjects, there's thematic prefixes, it's a classifier, root. And then this is another way to look at it. Somebody told me the other day, like, you should change to rainbow colors. And I can't. We're too far in. Too far in to change color schemes. But I understand the thought behind it. So we went through this, right? We defined all of these things. That's what we just did with that other slideshow. We defined every single thing that was on here. Well, I guess we didn't get to the suffix and postverb. We'll do those later. But for now,
Renee,
ah,
I have a comment on the previous slide, which is that the post verb at the end, the text has to be black. There's not enough contrast.
okay. Sheesh. Will do. Because the yeah. Can't have that yeah disappear. Yeah, and I'm sorry if anybody's colorblind and have trouble seeing. I'll definitely rethink all of this stuff. Black outlines, I'm okay. So now we got to talk about stem type, which I think we've touched on, right? So these are the ways that stem type is marked. So when we say stem type, this tells you, like, what is that stem going to do? Because again, the root is the meaning. Pa is like saying a certain thing. Ti is to be. Gan is to burn. Shant is to grab or catch. Qeeq is to throw. Khan is to be next to. But the stem is saying, what is the vowel going to do? Is it going to be short and high, long and high, long and low? Those are your 3 options. You can have short and low, but it's an exception to the rules. So you're really just going to have the 3. Short and high, long and high, long and low. There's a combination of things that are going to tell you what that vowel is going to be. The stem type, the conjugation type, and the verb mode. Those 3 things combine to tell you what that vowel is going to do. And some of them are easier. Positive futures, they all want to be long and high. Negative futures, they all want to be long and low. That's the best one, because it's just like, oh, that and that. Other ones, they'll follow some different rules. So the way we mark the stem is we say there's open and closed. Ends with a vowel, ends with a consonant. For open, you have 2 options, regular or fading. Fading is marked with this little h. What that means is when you go into a repetitive form, it will stay low. That's really the only difference. It's just when you go into like a repetitive form, habitual or repetitive imperfective, it'll stay low. For closed, you kind of have 2 options. And all you got to remember is this. If it's marked high in the theme, it won't go low. Shot has no low version. Like you would expect, shot. They didn't catch it. We'll end up with shot. It'll stay high. So the 2 ones, so there's regular. That means there's no special marking after it. But then the two ones that do stay high are all ejectives. Anything that ends with an ejective, it's got that little apostrophe at the end. It means it's got to stay high. And then what we call glottalized, which means in tanta Lingít, this probably would have been sha'at with that glottal stop in there. That translates into modern Lingít into a high tone. There was no high tone in tanta Lingít. The last one is invariable, which is marked with a little x. That means it never changes. Khan is nice because it's always short and high. Always, always, always. So we can see here this verb, which would be like ye yawaka. It's regular, right? And then ye wuti, awdagan, awashat, qut awqiq, or qut awaqiq, and then awsakhan. Right, so here it is. You got regular, open, fading, open. Then you got closed ones, regular, high, high, invariable. That just shows you examples. This is what it looked like in the dictionary. Any questions about that?
Are there very many invariables?
No,
Shucks.
maybe like 5%, something like that. So you're gonna have to move it. But so like, how does it work? Like, okay, so let's look at a perfective. Here's the positive perfective. This is what you've got: 0 and everything else. That's such a common rule for Lingít. All the 0 conjugation types, open verbs, will be short and high. Or sorry, long and high. So here you'd have awacha. They ate it. Then you'd have buta. They slept. Na, ka, and qa will be long and low. 0's long and high, everything else long and low. For closed, 0's short and high, everything else long and low. These ones don't have a low version, so they'll be long and high. That is very consistent. That is a rule that is very consistent. So once you look up a verb, if you see 0, then you know it's going to be short and high in the perfective. But that's also why you say hot ye gut, way day ye good. Because that first one was 0, second one was na. Negative perfectives, 0's are short and high. Kesh chwasak. Everything else long and low. For closed, they're always long and low in the negative perfective. Unless there's no low version, then they're long and high. And we'll see examples of it. We'll run out of time, but we'll see examples at some point in the future. For the future, it's easier. Future positive, everything long and high. Future negative, everything long and low. But look here, there's no low version, so it's got to stay. They're not going to catch it. You all are going to catch it, though. So that's like what goes into a perfective? For a perfective positive, you have to have y. You have to have a plus I classifier. So your classifiers can only be ya, di, shl, gl, si, zi, sh, j. Only options. Those are your only options. For 0's that are open, they'll be long and high. Everything else will be long and low. For closed, 0's will be short and high. Everything else long and low, unless there's no low version. And it's all like once you see it, it will make sense. These are your options. We just went over these. These are all of your options for your prefix. Chwa, chwate, chwase, chwatze, chwashe, chwate, chwashe, chwache. So one of the things that you can learn to do is keep this chart out, look at the theme, and then predict what the stem is going to be. If you add a ka or ya, it will be a little bit different, but you have kachwa, kachte, kachse, kachtze. And as you look through both of these charts, you're going to have this one, the ya, and that's going to be a little different. But if you look at de, se, ze, hle, gle, she, je, those are all the same, except the classifier changes. So here you've got yide, yidle. Here you've got wutude, wutudle, right? And we'll look at these, and what we'll do is we'll just start going through examples, right? So when we start to look at examples, I think all of this stuff starts to make sense. It's all abstract when we're just looking at these charts and talking about how they interact with each other. For example, here we have an object, an L classifier, that has to stay high. It's 0. So because it's 0, it should be short and high. So we should have object y, sh, So what should we get for I am dirty?
Ha, shle, che.
We have chat. And what was the next part?
Oh, I said it differently than you did. You're right, I think.
Yes.
Cut, liche.
Well, you got to have that perfective marker, which this will change to a W. So we should have chat, wushechech. So here we see y, ch, chech, which gets us wushechech. The second one, we're going to have two options. One for our inlanders, one for our coasties. You are, and even though these are saying are, like I am, you are, they all are, we are, y'all are, they all are, these are all going to be perfectives. You are dirty.
Ishi sheikh.
Eushechech. And for our inlanders, what would you have?
Imlichek.
Imshechech. That's right. Hold on. Is this a singular? I think this is supposed to be a singular. They are a singular. They are dirty. They are dirty. Well, aushechech would be a different verb, which would be they got them dirty. But there's no subject here. So because there's no subject, we shouldn't have ow. We should just have wushechech, an unmarked object. And I shouldn't say they all, I should just say they. We are dirty.
Utulichek.
Well, we're going to have ha in there for
Oh,
us.
ha.
And then ha ends with a vowel. So it's going to turn this into haushechech. Two separate words. But then in this is also, we're going to have hamshechech. if we're on the inland, right? You all are dirty. Again, ending with a vowel. Chat e zero ha yushech or yim shech. They all are dirty. Third person plural.
x'úxʼ.
Ye away. Haswushech. People are dirty. Well, that would be people got it dirty. Yes. So we're going to have k unless there's a weather-related verb. There's no like dirty weather verb. If there was, we'd switch to ka, just to avoid confusion. Like, hey, gonna cheesh. Okay, I don't want to do. I don't think I want to do a negative perfective yet. Maybe. Well, maybe that's enough for now. So as we go through, let's see. There's a handout that talks about the perfective, which maybe I'll put on our class page, and I'll also drop in the chat as we start to wrap up here so that you folks can have it. And what it does is it shows you a whole bunch of examples of perfectives, going through like basically every subject combination and every classifier combination, and just getting you to see what those prefixes start to look like. And then it starts to go through a whole bunch of perfective examples, and then we're going to go through and start predicting them one at a time, which is something we'll probably do next semester, because next Wednesday we're going to just finish the Kahanti story. So you can't have a semester break cliffhanger. So the cliffhanger will be on building perfective verbs. But I'll leave you folks with this chapter. Let me just find it real quick. There, now it's in the chat. So, Bilchishuhan Khanakwe Uke Adayajini Yahayukatangidan. Artlain Atawekutsiti Yahayukatangitin. Clash. Gwashwan Kanins Clash Kikuchlitzi, Quash Slinget Kinach, Uchin Yukakatilla Ati. Clash Kikuchlitzi. Ye away Yehoji, ye away Haina Kaaníkk, Kingiste. Jakan Kuna Aknu Jewet Yashingit Kinach. Aqaqone Iqinach Ayakakwata Yahayukatangi. Atlangun Chish we Dech Yagi Yakwahi Aqa Ye Wushkach to Steen. You Gunchish Johan. Anything before we go?
Atlain gunchish. Iwan.
Atlain gunchish.
Cheesh, Yichonsu.
You're done.
Atlain gunchish. Iwan.
Cheesh.
Gwnastis. Siat
Don
gydach.
ye-
Siat gydach. Chadayat. Gwnastis. Atling gwnastis.
Send us a fancy picture from Hollywood.
Yeah, we got a bunch of bougie native gear we're packing down there. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I want to see that Emmy.
Oh yeah, let's. Who knows what's gonna happen? We'll find out on Saturday.
Mhm.
Don ye ye jene way verbs tin kune kune cheese.
Okay, gonna cheese train. Okay.
Jagen.
Gonna cheese.
Mhm.